Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a documentary-style video like this in Filmora.
Many other players, but talent alone is never enough. It must be accompanied by several other key factors: hard work, strong will, self-confidence, and a strong personality. This is the story of Cristiano's beginnings and how he got to the pinnacle of football.
So let's get started. So I split this into 3 parts, so let's start with the first scene. So here I import my images to Filmora. Then I'm gonna start by adding this stadium background. Next, I add this image on top of the background layer. Then we need to remove the background of this image. For that, I'm going to the AI tools, and I use the AI portrait cutout option. Also, you can use the smart cutout or background remover tool for this. Alright, next I'm going to add movement to this image. So I need it zooming out from the right side to the center. I bring the playhead to the start, and I adjust the rotation a little bit. Then I increase the scale and create keyframes on these. I then adjust the position of this image like this. Then I go a few seconds forward and reset the position and rotation, bringing down the scale to 120. Okay, it's zooming out from the right side like this. Then I'm going to add another animation to this because I'm going to add our second image. So I create keyframes on scale, position, and rotation. Then I go a few seconds forward, and I need to zoom out to the right side with this image again. So I adjust these settings like this. Alright, now we have added the animation that we need. Next, let's adjust the key graph. So I go to the key graph, select all these keyframes and add the ease out graph to this. Here, you can see all the movements are fast at the beginning and slow at the end. Then I do the same for the other keyframes. Alright, next I'm going to adjust the color of this image. So I select the layer and go to the color tab. Then I adjust these color settings to match with the background perfectly. Alright, now it looks fine. Next, I'm going to add a zoom effect to this background layer. I go to the start and create a keyframe on scale. Then go to the end and increase it to 120. Alright, now we have our animation with a nice little parallax effect. Then let's add some effects to this. I go to the Effects tab, and the first effect I'm going to use is the square blur effect, so I add it to the background layer. In the effect settings, you can adjust these settings as you need, so I keep it at default. Now you can see our image looks more highlighted. Then I'm going to add an old look to this first scene, so I search for old film in the search bar. Then I add this effect to the background layer. Next, we can adjust the settings, so I adjust it like this. Alright, now we have a nice old vibe for this first scene. Next, let's add some effect to this image as well. So I search for mild in the Effects tab, then I add this effect to the image. In the Effects settings, I change the frequency to 1.5 and disable the RGB separate. You can see this effect gives a nice little movement to our image like this. Alright, next I'm going to add my second image to this, so let's add it. Then I remove the background on this image. Alright, then we need to animate this image, so I need this image zooming out from the left side to the center. It's the same process we did earlier. So I'm going to make it like this. Alright, now we animate the second image, so then I'm going to add my second background. For that, I'm going to use this new stadium background. I adjust this image's scale and position as I need. Then I need to reveal an animation for this background, so for that I'm going to use a transition. I like to add a nice ink transition, so I'm going to use this one for that. Here we can see our first image through the transition. To fix that, I add the transition to the end of this image like this. Now you can see the difference. Then let's add some effect to this, so like before, I first add a square blur effect. Then I add a different version of the old film effect. Next, let's add the mild effect to this image. Then I'm going to add a reveal effect to our first background. So for that, I'm going to use this ink transition. Alright guys, our first scene is complete, so here's how it looks.
With a huge talent and big ambitions, that's how Cristiano Ronaldo started his career. Similar to many other players, but talent alone is never enough. It must be accompanied by several other key factors.
Alright guys, next let's move to the next scene. First, I add my third, fourth, and fifth images to the timeline like this. Then, I remove the background of all these images. Then, I hide the fourth and fifth images for now, and let's start with the third image. But before doing that, I like to bring down our second image scale at this point. So I change it to something like 110. Then, let's animate the third image, so I set it to zoom out from the left side. So it's the same thing we did before, so I do it like this. Alright, after adding the movement, I select the second image, and this image needs to move backward, so I bring down the scale a little bit and adjust the position like this. Now you can see our third image came up, and the second image moved backward. So that's the difference in the second scene. So then we can do the same thing for the other images. So, I do it like this. Okay, next let's adjust the key graph. Alright, after that I'm going to add the third background and the text effect to this. So first I move this image to the top layer. Then I add my third background to the timeline. Then I add a simple zoom in effect to the background and a zoom out effect to the Ronaldo image. And it gives a nice little parallax look like this. Okay, next let's add the text, so I add it like this. Also, I'm going to add a zoom out effect to this text layer, so I do it like this. Also, I'm going to add a fade out effect as well. Alright, now we created the text effect. Then, I adjust the keyframes of the newly added keyframes. Then let's add the reveal effect to the text and the background layer, so I go to the transitions, and I use this ink transition for that. You can see it looks pretty cool. Alright, now we almost completed the second scene, so let's finish it up by adding the mild effect to these images, so I do it like this.
With a huge talent and big ambitions, that's how Cristiano Ronaldo started his career, similar to many other players. But talent alone is never enough. It must be accompanied by several other key factors: hard work, strong will, self-confidence, and a strong personality.
Alright, now we completed the second scene, so let's move on to the last scene. Alright guys, for the third scene, I'm gonna use this image. So, this image I made using Photoshop. So we can actually make this in Filmora. But it's going to be too complex when we animate this. So let's create the third scene. First, I'll add this image to the timeline. Then I'm going to match this image with the last image from the second scene, like this. So there is a little difference, but we can fix that with a transition later. Alright, so let's animate this. I'll create a keyframe on scale and position at the start. Then go a few seconds forward and bring down the scale a little bit and center the image. Then move a few seconds forward, create a keyframe on scale and adjust the position like this. Go to the point where you need to end and increase the scale, then adjust the position like this. Now we've made the movement. Next I'm going to add a mild effect to this. In the effects settings, I'll bring down the position Z value to 0 and disable the RGB separate. Then, let's animate this effect. Go to the first key and create keyframes on position X and Y, each with a value of 0. Then go to the next key and change both to 0.04. Okay, you can see it gives a nice movement like this. Then go to the next key to create keyframes on these. And then go to the last one, to change these back to 0. Okay, next let's adjust the key graph. Alright, it looks perfect. Next let's add a background to this. So I'm going to use this one for that. Then let's adjust the opacity a little bit. Okay, next let's add a drop shadow to our image. Next, I'd like to add a nice stretch look to the corners of this image. For that, I'll search for the Edge Warp effect on the Effects tab and add it to the timeline like this. In the effect settings, I'll change the speed to 0 and the strength to something like 35. Alright, let's animate this effect. Go to the start and create a keyframe on strength with a value of 0. Then go a few seconds forward and change this to 35. Then move forward and create a keyframe here. Next, go to the end and change it back to 0. Also, I'll adjust the key graph on this effect. Alright, like I told you before, let's add some transitions here. For that, I'm going to use this transition. Alright, now we've completed all 3 scenes, so let's add a few effects to finish this. The first effect I'm going to use is the depth blur effect. So, select the effect and add it to the timeline like this. This effect gives nice depth to your video. You can see when this image comes up, the background image is getting blurry. So that's the first effect. The next one is the BCC prism effect. I'll add it to the timeline. You can see this effect gives a nice chromatic aberration look to our video. You can adjust these settings as you need, but I think the default settings are perfect. I'm also going to add a mask to this effect, because I need this effect to appear only on the edges of our video. Now you can see it appears only on the edges of our video. The last effect I'm going to use is the color effect called Anime 3. I'll add it to the timeline. And in the effects settings, I'll change the opacity to something like 70. Alright guys, now we complete our documentary style video, so here's the final look.
With a huge talent and big ambitions, that's how Cristiano Ronaldo started his career, similar to many other players. But talent alone is never enough. It must be accompanied by several other key factors: hard work, strong will, self-confidence, and a strong personality. This is the story of Cristiano's beginnings and how he got to the pinnacle of football.
So guys, that's how we can make awesome documentary style videos in Filmora. Also, you can download this complete project file through the link in the description. So I hope this tutorial helps you, and if it does, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.